Right, this is going to be another episode of Snake and Banter. We're on our regular grind now. We've booked it in. It's all right. For this episode, we have a return guest. It is Scrawny, one half of the Scrawnders or whatever one. Even though I've told you, I always thought Scrawn Dog, Mohandillionaire or whatever. Listen, it's complicated, I know, but if everyone could just get with it, it would be so sick. But I have a different question to ask you, Scrawny. You know, I've asked you this. How do you feel being represented, literally some would say tethered in your professional career, with a man who just keeps referring to everything as like racism being good? Like, what do you think of that? Is that what's actually your feelings on that hilarious meme that you're now tethered to directly?
I mean, it's actually why he's now forcing me to have a buzz cut at most times. We're really trying to lean into it, I think.
My American History X angle.
Honestly, it's a bit whack, man. My mom the other day, she she comes in and out of the Counter-Strike space, and she's just like, she kind of pulled me aside when she was over. She's like, Connor, why does everybody keep calling Launders racist? And I don't know. I had to try to explain the joke to her, but it didn't quite hit as much. And she was worried for me. She's like, "But you can't be associated with this. Like, have you spoken to him about it?" I'm like, "No, Mom. It's gonna be okay." That and the amount of people at events that come up to him and go like, "Yeah, racism."
Oh my god.
Oh.
That's actually wild. That is nuts.
That's pretty crazy, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, at that point, you just pray like, "Oh, I hope that was ironic." I hope they don't.
100%.
The joke would be that you go, "Hey, I'm glad you know the meme." And they go, "What meme?" Like,
yeah. I don't think there's just no going back at this point.
No, exactly. Yeah, some would say, but not Scrawny. Once you just completely dive both feet into racism, at that point in time, it's kind of hard to just walk that back in some way. Some would say. Not that I know anything about that. So anyway, let's start the episode. Forget about it. So we obviously always start with the guest, coming with the good points. So let's start on a positive note. What's good at the moment, Scrawny? What's good?
What's good? Okay, so I think what's good is that we are now, after having at least a couple of events, or at least one event run by each of the tournament organizers, I can confidently say that the new formats introduced in 2025 have actually been a very refreshing and successful endeavor for the year. And I'm gonna break down this point into three subcategories, right? And I'm gonna touch on each TO. So first and foremost, Blast has Bounty.
Yeah.
I think that Blast Bounty is one of the more innovative ones. It shows that like we can kind of think outside of the box. And it's an improved version of the showdown. So there's like remnants of what was. There's the draft show in between. You know, their format definitely created these new instances of broadcast that otherwise we hadn't really seen before. For PGL, I want to say that their format has ended up just elevating their events to a different tier than they otherwise would be, right? This new, it's essentially just a major, but ran with best of threes the entire way through and a best of 5 grand finals. Phenomenal, right? I think Cluj-Napoca was taken that much more positively because the format, I would argue, is actually the best of all the TOs at the moment. That's the best one. And then ESL, shout out ESL, because they've refined Pro League to now only 2 weeks long. And I think that event not being 5 weeks long is better for the event in general, because we don't need 5 weeks of that. It's condensed it within the calendar. And because of that, I think that the demand that's on the broadcast talent throughout that show, in order to do all the content, in order to be fluid roles the entire show long, it's actually going to allow for them to produce better quality content because it's not dragged out over 5 weeks and they're not going to go crazy trying to do it. So every single TO this year has, in some way or another, improved formats for 2025.
Okay.
I like the point. I was going to bring up the fact, just as an addendum here, that everyone wrote their PGL thank you tweets. Like, I think Dust wrote one, unsurprisingly. Pimp wrote one. We got, Blair wrote one. And I was like, okay, I should write one too. But I was like, I'll just say on the podcast, I think that their format is the most competitive. You said it was the best. I think on top of that, the third place decider actually having value nowadays, as opposed to in the past where it was just like, I don't know, the difference between third and fourth was like $30,000, and I don't think these players really give a rat's ass about that. But now that it has VRS implications and the difference in prize money is about $80,000, something very substantial at least. It's something that you have to care about, or you should care about, and that's kind of my thank you tweet to PGL. You put forward the best format we possibly could have with this amount of teams. You could argue for some kind of GSL thing, but in a way, I actually find that Swiss gets many of the best teams to the playoffs. I feel like it's doing a really good job right now with the seeding that moves into the Swiss. Before, if it was an unseeded Swiss with a random draw, it could mess people up pretty badly. But now I think it actually has it's I don't think that there was a team that really missed the playoffs. Maybe like I'd argue for say 3D Max to have made it, or maybe VP to have made it. But all in all, like I don't know, they lost to teams that they probably shouldn't have lost to then. Like I don't think that I'm not really going out of my way to like fight for them is what I mean. Like I think maybe Saw kind of squeaked through, but they beat 3D Max. So I can't really get too mad at them on that given day. So yeah, no, I think that overall the formats are very good. And my other point in regards to this is that this is because we don't have the partner system where the teams are working in tandem with the TO to create the format. Because in the past, it was a legitimate circle jerk of let's make sure everybody gets to play each other as much as possible, because HLTV rating or ranking is solely determined by victories as opposed to losses. But now it's the TOs come up with it, and when they're not shackled by the teams that are saying, no, we want more games and more lives, well, now they're actually coming up with great stuff that is entertaining and feels like everything matters.
Sure. I mean, I'll go in reverse order like you did there. So on the PGL one, like essentially this is the exact format. If people don't know, if you go back in time, like 6 years that StarLadder used to run, and it was really good. The problem StarLadder always had was it was only certain events would get all the teams there. So actually a similar problem this event had. So it means that people don't always, the problem is people don't tend to look at the format. They just look at the outcome and they just remember if it's really good. That's why for a joke is for so many years people were against BO5 finals, but then you'd have an awesome one. They'd be like, it's the greatest match I've ever seen. It's like well then you'll need to have them to have another great match. But they didn't put two and two together. They just saw a great match. They thought it was great. They saw one that was bad. They were like, their format sucks. So I think also you need a bit of luck with how the tournament goes. But I'm generally with you, Maui. Like, put it this way, the reason why the BO3 Swiss is so satisfying is even if you do get the teams where they just get a brutal 2-2 and 2-3 game, as long as they play like 4 to 6 maps, you feel like they had their chance though. They still had a chance in the match to sort of fix the seeding and to overcome the opponent. And also, like, it's one thing to be like, oh, they would have made the quarters and lost anyway. Well, you're not really that bothered about that team anyway. If they were a team that could have gone to the final, they probably can win the 2-3 game, even if it's like a fucking really hard opponent that's like impossible to play. They're potentially going to win the playoffs. It's the same exact format. You're going to play a BO3 quarters. So I think that's really good. I also do think the BO5 final is just fire. I don't think people realised it at this event because like it did, that fourth map needed to go a little bit spicier and then it would have started to properly heat up. Like it had some early in the game. Like pretty sweet. Here's an obvious one. If we rerun the whole tournament and the final instead is like FaZe versus Eternal Fire at the best of fire, mate, everyone would be fucking loving that. That could be like the match of the fucking year. That could have been incredible. So, no, I'm with you. I actually do think the amount of play as well. It's why the joke is, even without all the top teams there, Mouse did do so much for their rep because they played 1 billion maps. It was outrageous how many games they played. Like, by the end, everyone couldn't just be like, they were just low key or something. I was like, well, how fucking lucky do you want to be? Like, it's rolling sixes like 7 times in a row. Something. This is ridiculous. So, yeah, they were just cooking. There were so many. And then obviously the blast one is the easiest one because the bounty component is essentially one of the things we were trying to do with Flashpoint, which is if everyone else has already sturdy formats, really good formats, and especially, by the way, sometimes if they have better teams than you, not always going to be the case here, what you want to do is to be different. You want to include something where it's actually like some wrestling angle. It's not actually just like traditional sports, like number 1 plays number 16. Like, why not have it where, I mean, they've even done the reverse of Flashpoint, which is kind of cool. Ours was the big dog sort of comes in like the tyrant, like, bow to me, peon, and beg me not to pick you or I'll destroy you. Instead, this is the one where it's like the little fucking David guy goes, hey, Goliath, I think I could fuck you up for all the money. And then if you do, by the way, Eternal Fire did do this if people don't know. They were even doing like big draws. They purposely picked Na'Vi, but they're one of the most beatable teams. And as a result, they not only made the finals, they were racking up the money. If people go and look how much they actually won, they were just... That was straight fire. That actually added like an element. And also, we'll have to play the blast one out a few times before players get used to this. But eventually, when they actually understand that, like now, like on the mic skills, when you do the pick, etc., is like half the excitement, then it will get really spicy. Like when you actually get, like, pretty sure that's even where even the people I don't even really rate, like, pretty sure Fallen could probably come up with some good banter there or some good angle, you know, that everyone who's an entertainer could come up with some angle and could add a bit of extra spice to the game. And then the EPL one, you've obviously nailed it there. EPL's big problem at the moment in general is it's just not seen as a big event tournament because it doesn't have the big arena match, etc. So the problem was 5 weeks was too long. And even with the whole fun banter angle, that 5 weeks long of that though, like that drains after what? You want like a week or two of that, have some fun skates, have some good on camera segments, you know. Then let's get on to the rest of the circuit. We can still have it be Pro League, but it was occupying too much of the calendar. And also the joke would be just, it was like basically Zemu, #1 player of the year farm zone, wasn't it? Like, oh yeah, no, 7 weeks of this is great, this is top notch shit. So it was just, I also want arena CS. That's one of the things I love about this game. You're not just stuck playing regular seasons. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good one. Yep. I also like the way you actually came, like fucking some sort of like PowerPoint presentation, like you were trying to like sell us like a time.
He's always prepared.
I know.
Hey man, I come in swinging.
Okay.
If I could say though, just one on Bounty, because I think Bounty needs refinement. That's the one thing. It's like, obviously the beauty of like what Maui says here is like with the partner leagues, everybody was kind of in and like devising the format, but the beauty of it being completely in Blast's hands now is they're well aware that it didn't run perfectly and how they wanted. Right. You know, like there was some ideas that didn't actually materialize, like teams actually going for additional bounties on one another's heads. For example, I think for real, when you do a bounty bet, the weird thing is that the amount you win doesn't go into your bank. The amount you win goes onto your bounty. So you gamble money, but when you win, you don't actually instantly secure it. You just put a larger price on your head, which you can win if you get to the end of the event. But I think that should be instant. Right. So that's definitely a little fine tuning.
No, you're right. That's what I thought it was doing. I thought you were just like getting that amount and saying, oh, it's sick. They've smacked it up already. Right. Okay.
It's a bullet that they dodged because no team was willing to gamble money because they didn't really know how the whole new system was going to work this season, whether they should take that risk of, prize money being lost or won. We never actually had to go through those details, right? And then it was only through a conversation that I learned like, oh shit, I would have gotten that completely wrong on broadcast. So luckily it didn't
by the way,
happen,
if they actually do get that, if that is true and they actually implement that properly, that's exactly where the trash talk would be fire. Like, I'll tell you an obvious example. Think about this last tournament, right? Forget doing tweets with your social media teams. If the Mongols and Astralis really want to settle this, put all the money up, boys. Just go, hey, I'm going all in. Like, that would be straight fire. Then that match would be fucking heat, wouldn't even if it was just like a fucking round of 8 match or something. It wouldn't even have to be the finals. Then everyone would be watching that one. Especially if they're like, hey, kid, and we've got all your money, bro. Like, that'd be sick.
Blast also has to change up when they do the draft show because it felt like doing it at the end of the show made like the players didn't want to be there by the end of the day. They were gassed. Yeah. And, so that needs to be, again, little things that need to be fine tuned. But because it's not partner leagues, Blast can literally change Bounty 2 from Bounty 1. They're not locked into a 3-year contract where Bounty has been hard solidified as this thing where, some team is going to keep them hard pressed to those details. Blast can do whatever they want for the next bounty, which makes it way better. So,
yeah, exactly. Basically, it's sweet. It's got like what would you say? It's got a, what would even the joke there be? I don't know what the joke would be for the chocolate part, but then the joke is go nuts. It's like bounty is actually like a it's like a
coconut.
Bar, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Go nuts on it, exactly.
Bounty, it's coconuts.
There you go. Right, go then, Maui. What is your good point? By the way,
we
this
actually
is
had
classic Maui take as well for this one.
No, actually, we actually had a bunch of bounties in our green room, and nobody ate any of them.
For some reason, bizarrely, it's one of those things where people either like them or think they're absolute trash for some reason. I noticed that.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of that kind of coconut flavor. Just like the real stuff. Okay.
All right, flexing fucking bit. Oh, I'm the Mauisnake. I only read this.
Of course.
These coconuts are nothing like it. Hawaii, bro. Whatever.
Exactly. You know what it is. All right. Mine is actually just, I was just looking at the ESL Pro League talent announcement, and I thought this was a really cool, good point that Dona's getting hired for stuff. I think Dona's a cool addition to the talent pool. I've talked before that I just think it's not that, I'm not going to say DEI. I'm not going to say diversity. But I just think that people that are not James Banks should be interviewing people sometimes. Like, I just think that it's good for the space. That's all I'm saying. Like, I think James Banks
don't want diversity hires. You just want non-James Banks hires.
I like James Banks, and I think right now he does the best interviews for broadcasts, okay? Like,
but he is on every event. It's true.
Yeah. He just does the best interviews right now. He has a great relation with the players in general. But I just think that... I think there was something about James probably couldn't do Pro League or something. I don't know. It wasn't either way. I'm not going to get into like the details of this one. It's just that I think that other people are capable of doing the job. I think that we've talked about Heku in the past not getting hired and stuff. And I feel like for Dona, it's a fresh look. It's somebody who knows the scene in and out. Like, she's incredibly well versed with the top teams. She watches a lot of games. Like, when she's not at these events, she's co-streaming these events. She's actually like, she's really tapped into watching the scene and everything. And I feel like she's been incredibly capable of holding conversations with practically every team in the top 15, top 20 every time I've talked to her about them, whether we've done a stream together or she's been on one of these shows. So I feel like she's also got a great bubbly energy that can be seen as very lighthearted. She brings a different atmosphere to these kinds of broadcasts. So all in all, this is just my big vouch for Donna being on the show, or being on ESL Pro League, and for other TOs to probably see what's there. If you don't like it, that's up to you. It's your decision at the end of the day. But I think that this is a great hire. So and this is not, I know I framed it kind of oddly. I'm not trying to take a shot at James Banks. Like I said, I think he's a fantastic interviewer. I like being around rooms with him, and I think he's a really nice guy. All in all, I think he's really settled into the role super nicely. So yeah, I just think that it's cool Donna's getting a shout.
I love Donna. I think that is it's a valid good point to bring up. I think that she impressed me at the HLTV award show when you were discussing how kind of tapped into the scene she felt. Like, I can't say I've had like analytical conversations with Donna, so I don't know how far that goes. But also, for a show like Pro League, I think it's a great place for her to get more reps in. She wasn't that nervous when we did HLTV award show, which I thought was curious because I was incredibly nervous because there's this like prestige that comes with, I think, the award show specifically. It's not just an analyst desk. I feel like you couldn't really just wing it. And I remember seeing her the night before, sat down with Prof at like 11 p.m. before broadcast day, like going over who she was going to interview, going over run a show and stuff. So it's I would say like, even though her introduction to maybe interviews came through like OniPixel and being his on-site person to get him stream content. So maybe that's why, like, if there is anybody out there who thinks maybe it's like a bit like Donna's a bit memeier, well, she's touched into like the culture of Counter-Strike and Twitch chat for sure. But she's also, I think, very willing at this moment to start to step it up in like the professional realm of broadcast, the stuff that goes on before the cameras start rolling. So I can only vouch for her in that regard. She definitely took her job very seriously. And yeah, man, I look forward to it. I think she's just going to be fun. Like, I think that's the nice thing. It's the bubbly part that Donna really brings. She's always very fun whenever I've hung out with her.
Yeah, I agree. This is an overall good point. Like, first of all, right off the top of the dome, OniPixel streams less worth watching now. That's good in the world. That's a positive. We're actually increasing the amount of quality streams on the internet. He'll just be opening cases and going, bro, wait. Oh my God, JL just said something. Oh, he said something funny. It's like, oh, fucking hell, you're killing me, dude. Like, anyway, listen, you can all like slop. You can all enjoy things. I don't enjoy certain TV shows. Maybe you do. He's like the sort of the Star Wars TV show of the CS streaming world, isn't he?
He's the friend.
Someone's watching it. Someone's watching it. They keep doing new seasons. I don't know. It's not me. Listen, I like the old Star Wars. I don't even like the old OniPixel. I don't know what that reference was. Whatever. It's all good. Anyway, point is, she won't be there, so don't watch it. Just watch the EPL stream. And if you watch the stream, here's the thing. I agree, actually. The strength she has, which people don't get, is she's not a traditional interviewer. I agree with you, Scrawny. Essentially, her strength is she's an insider. She literally knows loads of those players, like friends with, been to loads of the events, obviously, especially when she was going with Nexa, etc. back in the day. And also now, through streaming and all the rest of it, she's actually gotten like the fun vibe down, because that's what she basically does on her stream, if you don't know. And so I actually think, first of all, one thing that's mad underrated about that is she's not trying to do like James Banks' thing is, I can always sort of tell beforehand, he sort of like has prepped like an angle with someone, like, what about this angle here? And he like sets them up for it, and then lets them like say their answer. If you go back in the day, Frankie for real used to come with like, almost like sports journalism style, like, hey, your team's like been 3 losses in the last 5, like how are you going to bounce back, and sort of like test them and sort of be a bit fiery with them, What I like about Donna's style is it's different to all those. She actually has a very welcoming style. Like when she asks you a question, even if there's like a meme in there, it's never pointed. You never feel like you're being attacked. And I actually think there's a lot of players, by the way, we have players like now, like Mongols and stuff, where they're still like getting used to speaking English on camera in front of a mic and thinking what they're going to say. And are they going to say something funny, and are they going to trash talk, or people from Eternal Fire, etc. So I actually think that sort of a vibe is really good to like help these people dip their toe into the pool and not feel scared. Someone's holding their hand in this analogy, isn't it? So it'll help welcome them in. Also, I'm with you as well, Scrawny. Considering she hasn't done it very often, people don't know how many reps you normally have to get decent at a job like that.
Yeah.
Most of the people you've even seen in CS already were in Rocket League or PUBG or FIFA and did like 50 tournaments, and they're still nervous when they come and see us. She actually has a pretty good poise as well. So there's all stuff that'll level. So I also think, by the way, it's probably the most obvious product to put onto, isn't it? It's the fun vibe where you can have the aspect where there's more play, etc., and you can be a bit playful with people and bounce around a little bit. So yeah, it's just a great hire. And also just always nice to see new people getting hired as well. It's not always just the same old names. Like, I also like the idea, I always used to say as an analyst, I like the idea there's competition too. And you have to all level each other's games up and no one can get sort of rest on their laurels and get too safe and feel like it's all going like that. Even though we did that whole thing where he was like, I still love you though, James Back, you're a nice guy. And I enjoyed that hot core we once shared. And I'll never forget, Stockholm or whatever, like whatever.
The one thing that I think all of your points are great regarding Donna, and I think where ESL maybe lightly dropped the ball though, is that they're only bringing her for playoffs.
Oh, what?
Like really
Group
weird.
stage would have been where she could have cooked. Oh, what?
Yeah.
That's such a good hook, Maui. Well done. Nice setup.
Yeah.
Nice alley-oop here, dude. Wow.
Okay.
Now you know what? Now I'm disappointed.
Okay.
Yeah, now we're all frustrated.
Right, now it turns to an ugly point.
It's a good and a bad in one
Yeah,
point.
exactly. It's now become an ugly point. That's sad. Even though I'll just stress, Lawrence, if you're watching, I don't mean she's ugly. I mean the point is ugly. I know sometimes the wires get crossed on those. Sometimes she had that same mistake one time, so it's all good.
Ugly hater. Hater.
I forgive her too for that.
Thing is, you have to know with Launders, he's also, by the way, really good looking. He's not at all ugly. It's only his commitment to racism that's ugly.
Yeah. Well,
you can't say that. I know.
You can't really.
Just let it go. Sleep it.
Ugly.
Yeah, you said I can't say anything.
Because the problem is all the jokes just make it worse. Just keep digging in it. I know.
I just stand idly by.
Right, okay. Well, here's the thing. My good point, and here's the thing. I know timing. I know when to come with a point, right? I could have burned this on past episodes, but I don't always want to be the contrarian guy. Sometimes I like to have a popular point too that we can all just enjoy and just come into the water where it's nice and warm. Falcons are actually a lot of fun to watch. They're actually just a good team in CS. Like, the obvious angle, I've heard many people say, it's just right though, is people still hating on them. Look, hate on them for the owners if you want, separately. In the same way as in business, you might not like, I don't know, Amazon or something like that. But at the end of the day, like, you can still buy a book from someone who's a seller on Amazon, or you can still like the recommended, the algo, etc. So what I don't get about people still sort of hating on them, because people tried to like force the narrative from last year's team, where only Magisk remains, to this year's team, and people actually were trying to make it sound like they're going to lose every single game. And it's like, bro, this is Heroic, who already was kind of like a pretty fun Dark Horse team, with a better rifler. That was hard to do, and Nurse is pretty good. You got Nico now, and then you've basically, it's arguable you've upgraded from Shush to Magisk, at least in terms of experience. You clearly have, like, that's actually a fun team. I mean, as you saw in this tournament, win or lose, they make for exciting matches, mate. A lot of the games that they watch, like, it's really hard to know, by the way, which map Falcons is even going to win. I think they're a team where it's added a bit of spice to the scene for me. I'm looking forward actually to this blast and all the rest of it, to see them thrown in the mix with the bigger teams in HPL.
Yep, 100%, dude. I think Falcons, just the fact that Nico had, I wasn't sure what the crowd would do in Cluj, and still, no matter where we go, no matter what country on the planet, dude, there's Nico chance.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no denying that Falcons have straight up. What I like this time is like you're saying, it's upgrades on Heroic, whereas the last time they nuked a roster, it was downgrades for pieces of ENCE, right? They weren't able to bring Nerts over with it. It's like there was a moment there where the core had to stabilize and maintain, whereas this time they actually just got a straight up upgrade. And I was actually pissed at first because I was thinking to myself, damn it, here we go again. Falcons just ruining us after the Shanghai Heroic run. Like, that was one of my favorite parts about the Shanghai playoffs, was watching Heroic step up into that. And when it got nuked a second time, I just thought, like, God damn, like, here we are. It's going to cost us another top 8 team, and it's just going to take another 6 months or whatever, not where they just kind of fizzle out. But I mean, Nico makes it work, dude. And maybe that's because he is as great of a player that he is. And maybe because it's also like, it's a calling buff next to Kicksan to have a teammate like him. But no, I co-sign with you too, dude. I think, like you're saying, dealings and money passing over be damned. As far as the Counter-Strike goes, Falcons is great.
It's hard to be too upset with how the roster's progressed. I mean, there's nothing really to take away from it right now. Even game to game, I'm liking the improvements. Sometimes they're bad at one map. I feel like, what was it? I was watching them play Ancient versus Astralis. I was super worried about them playing that versus the next team that they faced off against. Was it not sure. It wasn't Eternal Fire. It wasn't. I don't know who it was. Either way, it was one of the next games. Maybe it was Maus. I think they beat Maus on a Ancient actually in the group stage, and to see them day 1 to day 2 play it, it was like, oh wow, you guys actually fixed practically everything. So finally, I'm like, okay, so the coaching. So Zonic's doing a lot. Kicksan's doing a lot. The firepower on the team in terms of Nico and Dexter is always going to be exciting. The little concerns I have here and there are just, I guess Dexter's decision making game to game can look a little bit awkward. Just sometimes wants to force the issue, wants to make like an arena play in a group stage game where nobody's really shook by him re-peaking. They're just like, oh, okay, you're gonna re-peak, we'll kill you. That's fine. Like you should rotate back here. Yeah, it is fun to watch. Sometimes just pushing in a weird man advantage state also with the op, just kind of like maybe just relax a little bit. Like you do have a gun that's better for just sitting still, you know? So yeah, he does a couple weird things here and there, but it's fun. I mean, the way that I keep describing Kicksan is that he just doesn't embarrass himself as an individual. And I feel like with CS2 and how every player needs to have CT side contributions, I just think that it's starting to, I don't know. We've talked about this so many times over the course of Counter-Strike, like fragging IGLs. I don't think Kicksan's necessarily fragging IGL. I just think that if they come into his bomb site, he'll get a kill. Like that's all I ask sometimes. And he's not just going 0 for 7 to start a CT side half. I almost never see that from Kicksan. So I'm impressed by him. The Magisk angle is the only one where it's an upgrade, of course, like you said, Thorin, in terms of experience, but in terms of actual gameplay, I'd say the jury's still out for myself. I like Magisk at this event didn't really impress me all too much.
On the fun angle, though, he had a couple of magical plays, though. He had a couple where it was like, whoa, almost like the play of the tournament a couple of times,
Yeah, he has a couple maps here and there, but stringing it together over the course of a tournament or even a series sometimes can be too much for him. So I'm not really sure. But Shush was kind of Shush was downtrending too, actually. So I'm not going to really, I'm not going to wax lyrical about how good Shush has been when in reality that's not the case. So yeah, no, I think they're really exciting, and I like that you come with the fact that the angle is, even though you're saying you're not contrarian, it's almost like you're getting ahead of the common narrative of hating them. So now the contrarian is, wait, we should actually appreciate the Counter-Strike we're playing. I think it's a good
celebrate
point.
Them. Yeah, celebrate them. You have to,
okay. Listen, should we?
That's what I'm on about now. Listen, I've been watching back ESL Impact broadcasts, to change my whole perspective on the scene. And
have you?
I've been taking some tips from some of the analysts.
Big of you, man.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah. No, by the way, I like the way Maui is such an actual generational hater. In a good point, that was just, hey, there's something really fun. He was like, think about Dex's position. Let me just get in depth on this stall and get surgical on this pitch. Like sometimes he's just mispositioning. Who do you think he is? You're not in the arena, mate. You're in a fucking group anyway. Oh yeah, it is a good team. I also enjoy it. All right,
just gotta round the point a little bit.
Okay.
It's also very egregious sometimes with Dexter, so I think it's valid to bring up, man. But I think what's cool too about this team, just last note, is I think that the emotions they wear on their sleeve, I love. I love I love a Counter-Strike team that is just as in it as they are, right? Like whether it's Nico smashing tables, whether it's Dexter after their quarterfinal game saying like, I've never had a crowd cheer for me before, literally had tears in his eyes because of that matchup, right? We're talking about somebody who's been at a major semifinal with Spirit. So for that crowd to have touched him the way it did, I just like his story, the way he's come back. Kicksan also gets pretty ferocious sometimes, right? Like he looks very lasered in and angry when games are going well. I like that. It's just it's a team that I think is starting to become easier to cheer for.
Now, speaking of good things, what about Ridge Wallet? I've had one for years and years and years. They're now sponsoring some of the Insight and LFN. By the way, this wallet actually is fire because first of all, I have to show like reference back. Look how small it is. Look how slim it is. It can fit up to 12 cards inside of there. Because it has a band on it as well. It's not like those hard ones where you press a button and it pops up and you can only fit a set amount in. If you have like 4 in, it's going to be smaller and still fit tightly. If you have the 12 in, it's going to expand out, etc. On the back, you can do the thing where you put like your bonus cards and stuff in. You can also actually put a money tray in there if you're a boomer and you still use coins, etc. Or you're a little kid and you like to use coins. I don't know why you'd be listening to this advert. Get off the computer. Put your dad on. But anyway, buy one of these Ridge wallets, it's straight fire. Also comes to like, listen, 50 different colours and styles. Listen, I am an esports boomer, so I've just now he's got all colours. I was just like, I will have the plain blue one, please, thank you.
Case hardened, bro.
Yeah, it's basically case hardened.
You could
I
also
think
get
they
them
called
made
it
out of like
Damascus.
I think you can get them made out of like aluminium and titanium and different materials as
There's
well.
a gold one too, actually, which it looked pretty sick actually.
And it's also
the colors are really
you have
good.
in yours?
Yeah, how many?
I only use a few. I use this actually when I go to the gym because I want a slimmer
okay.
wallet when I go to the gym. But yeah, I think it's been really sleek. Like it's just, I mean, it's the size of your card.
Yeah.
So it can
It's
fit in your
legit.
pocket super quickly, super easily. It has a clip on it too, so you can strap it on something you want to. Yeah, it's awesome.
By the way, the other thing is as well, like if you ever haven't used one of these smaller wallets, you're going to think, like, what's the big deal? It's just a wallet. You don't know the difference between not having that giant wallet with all the notes folded over in and you know, like 50 million coupons and like the George Seinfeld, if anyone knows the old reference. That's such a it's a reference from the 90s for fucking that 30 years ago at this point in time. Whatever. Look up the DVDs or go on, look at Amazon Prime. I don't know what I don't know what media kids use nowadays. It must be on Amazon Prime. Surely it's
It was on Netflix for a while.
There you go. It was on
It
Netflix
was.
and some one of your Zoomer streaming services, not .torrent file or whatever. Anyway, well, I get all my quality bits.
Talking about BitTorrent with like this ad.
Anyway, the point is, they've also got a lifetime warranty, obviously, of the wallet, you know, like, if you need
Not
another
everything
one.
inside.
Yeah, and also, they've got, if you just need this part, they also have RFID blocking technology, so digital pickpockets can't pickpocket you or whatever, which, by the way, is just terrifying for me. That's a thing, like, fuck. Now I have to find something else out about the world that goes on. Okay, I thought I was just avoiding real pickpockets, you know, people, can I, which way to the station, please? Like, now they're buying digital fucking, now what, the aliens or some shit, I don't know. Anyway, point is they protect you, that's all you need to know. So they've also, by the way, they've got this thing, the key case, so instead of like just a circle that you put the key on, it all locks in the keys just like that. You can fit up to 6, it doesn't jangle in your pocket. That also has like a clip on the back, which is magnetic, if you use it on a magnet, etc. It's made out of metal, etc. and can clip also to the side if you want to clip it. I say clip on, I refuse to say strap on at any point in this ad like Maui did there. I don't even know why you would open that door in our brains while we're talking about the wallet. But anyway, whatever. You can use your wallet to get as many strap-ons as you want, Maui. Anyway, back to the EliGE wallet. The point is, it's great.
You can safely say I'm not going to use one.
Okay.
You can safely say I won't be using one.
So they are having their once-a-year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off it's on the screen, ridge.com/snake. Easy to spell snake. It's half of Maui's name. Just head to ridge.com/snake to see their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they will ask where you heard about them. Look, it's not like they're not some sort of fascist dictatorship. You can choose not to say it, but if you would say it came from us, that'd be appreciated, wouldn't it? Can you do something for me for once? Can you just buy the wallet and also say I told you to buy it? Is that too much to ask? Thousands of pieces of content for free for all those years, all those amazing interviews are simple and all this, and then you're just going, haha, Thorin, I sort of like this. I gave it to thumb. That thumb does nothing for me. Use that thumb, click on the button, buy the EliGE wallet, and then also write in, Maui told me to buy this. His cultural impact is bigger than Ziwu's. Enter. They'll go, who the fuck's Ziwu? I'll go, don't even worry about it. You're already sponsoring the best guy. Maui. Right, okay. Thank you to EliGE wallet. Thank you to anyone who buys our products. So here's the thing, Scrawny. We do things a little bit differently around here. You know, the sort
I
of
love
copy. It's not really what they sent over. I'm just going to tell you that. So it's all good.
Yeah.
We'll see if we get any notes on that one.
Yeah, a little ad lib's always good, man.
Yeah. We'll see if we get any notes back on that one. Any sort of feedback about do's and don'ts, things to stay away
Maybe the most
from.
off the script ad read you've done for a while.
I know.
Aaron.
Okay. But here's the thing, though. That will be memorable. That will be a memorable ad in this show. So now we go to the bad point. Ooh. So here's the thing, Scrawny. What's the bad point?
Cue ominous music. I'm going with a theme over my 3 points today. I don't know if you guys do that regularly, but they're all kind of interlinked. So the bad point in the current year, arguably due to the new formats that I praised, the return of quadruple best of threes on a broadcast day is back in full force. And I don't really think it belongs. I'll say that again, all 3 TOs to a degree or other. And when I say 3 TOs, I just mean the big 3 of 25. They're all guilty of it.
Nice.
You know, if they're listening, I understand the costs. I understand sometimes it's cost related. I understand sometimes it's calendar related. And that in order to have an event that is as fleshed out as constant best of threes, the you know, et cetera, whatever, we're going to have to cram some days. But the bad thing about quadruple best of 3 is that it is just a lesser quality product for everybody involved. In terms of consecutive quadruple best of 3s, Blast is actually the biggest culprit. For the bounty events, we do 6 quad best of 3s in a row. 6 days of 4 times best of 3s. You find me one fan who's watching every single map of that. So the reason this is a bad point is because A, First of all, it's taxing on production. I'm going to put them at kind of number one, right? You're taxing production. Their work days are incredibly long at that point. And there is an argument where at that point we start to get into broken down shifts. Okay. So sometimes shifts of production, we have the half day shift. Everybody does 2 best of 3s. The problem is when you make shifts, usually what you're doing is you're gutting the quality of your product, because suddenly you might be breaking up your best observer teams so that they can do half days. So half of the event, the first portion, is just less replays, less good observing. We don't have all the beautiful cinematic observing, the stuff that really makes the broadcast extra special. Secondly, for players, nobody wants to sit around waiting on a running schedule of 4 best of 3s to play their games. Matches should not be finishing around 11:30, midnight, sometimes even going beyond that. And you should have a more, kind of cemented start time. Casters and analysts. Now, again, we're, I think, like the least affected, but 6 days of doing 2 best of 3s over and over, it does just bite. It's, when you're done your casting and you want to do your prep for the next day, if that's analyst, whatever role on broadcast, it just cuts into that amount of time. It's so much easier to be able to fixate in on a single match any given day. And that's why I think alternating, my preferred is if we do 3 best of 3s every day, you can do 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, and everybody just has a short shift every second day. Much better. But ultimately, it boils down to the viewing. How many games are coming through the pipeline that people are simply disinterested in because they can't keep up with that sheer amount of hours of Counter-Strike? And at that point, we're just undermining the importance of any given game, which is a complete contrast to what this season of Counter-Strike is supposed to be about with the new VRS system, where every game matters more. Every loss is XYZ. I just don't think that quad best of 3s should feature as much as they are right now. And with Blast, it's the 6 best of 3s in a row. ESL is not as bad at it. I think they do 3 maybe for Pro League. And then
it's in the play-in portion.
In the play-in.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the sketchy one, this is I think PGL do quad best of 3s least, if my calculations are right. But we did just do quad best of 3s in a stadium. And that went over smoothly because we got lucky with 2 fast 2-0 2-0s. But if we do all 3 matches, overtimes 3 maps, dude, that's like a 16-hour broadcast day in a stadium with fans on site. And so I think we're going down a sketchy path with quad best of 3s floating around.
I looked through the PGL VODs as you were saying this to compare the 4 BO3 Arena Day to some of the other days. A lot of the broadcasts throughout the event I think some of them were 4 BO3 days actually, but some of them were a little shorter. The Arena 4 BO3 one, which you think would take the longest, went 12 hours and 34 minutes, which is a brutal schedule if it's one production team that's covering all of that. A lot of their other days are about 8 hours, 7-hour 50. There is an 11-hour day. There's one sprinkled in. The longest day they've done recently was actually during the RMRs. And so I'm going to kind of take this away from the TOs for 1 second to say that this is still even a feature of the RMRs, or at least they were a feature of the RMRs. They had a day for the European RMR that went for 15 hours and 20 minutes as a broadcast. So it's a shame because we as TOs, well, not we, but the TOs are the ones that are setting the formats until the MRQs, until the major. And yet they got pushed to do that for one of the days under Valve rulings of how they wanted this tournament to be run. So, but then for them to put it upon themselves also and put it upon the broadcast, I think it's more of a symptom of the calendar being so squished and that you want to run these competitive formats and something has to give at some point. I think it's just a shame that it has to be in the arena for PGL on this one because they had to move people from the Bucharest studio, fly them or drive them to Cluj, and then they had to do a 1-day break, and then they did the arena. Like that was a very kind of just an awkward point because if they had another day before, if they had I forgot what tournament ended right. Well, Katowice, I suppose, ended before it, and then they had to run it. It's just the lack of buffer time, I'd say. The lack of buffer time between these TOs. But I think the light at the end of the tunnel is what I was trying to get to here, is that because the TOs are going to have overlapping tournaments in the upcoming years, they shouldn't have to be forced to do this anymore. I think when they start to just bite the bullet and say, okay, we're just going to run tournaments at the same time. I think starting, was it next year or the year after, Blast and PGL have concurrent events, for example.
27.
And yeah, or 2027, then eventually they're just going to say, well, we don't need to run 4 BO3 days anymore because who are we squished by? So that's the one thing that could maybe save this in a couple years. But again, it's 2 years from now.
Yeah, a few things. I like all of the points made, so I'll just tag on myself. First of all, one of the reasons why this format has also always existed is because when TOs literally would actually try and do things like, right, well, we'll do 3 and then we'll do one other, then players just complained about that. Everyone wants to play on the same day. If you do the first day and then you have a day off, oh, well, I did a day off, like I didn't get to practice. So unfortunately, there was never like a perfect solution to fixing this. But the problem is that's just like players looking from their perspective only. If you look from everyone else's perspective, the 4BL3s is just a nightmare. Like, it almost never works and is good. Like, as you just said, to basically get a manageable time frame, you actually need a couple of games to just almost be complete stomp one-sided, which is like, surely we want every game to have the potential to be 3-map epics that are incredible sort of stories within themselves and 3-act plays and all this sort of thing. So, and also, by the way, it just makes certain games less memorable. If a game gets a sweep at the beginning of the first day, first of all, either because of the schedule, you don't even get up and watch it, or you're not off work, etc. Or even worse, you just forget it because it gets erased by like the 2 last series. And then, as you say, if you go down the whole different aspect of the ecosystem, it affects everyone differently. If you're an analyst, by the way, even though, yeah, you do shifts, if you do the last BO3, well, spoiler, you have no idea when that's going to start. Like, that could be fucking 3 hours later, it could be an hour. It's a nightmare to like schedule in things like your dinner, like you say, prep. Am I going to go to the studio and watch the games earlier, or will I just be there for 6 hours before the game starts? Also, if it really does end at midnight or beyond midnight, I know people are going to go, oh, boo-hoo, you get paid a lot. It's going to be really hard to manage your sleep, etc. I've always said the silliest thing of all time is people think when the broadcast goes off, you just hop into like a bunk and go to sleep in the venue. No, you have to go back from the venue. You have to go. By the way, you cannot just come down off the high that you're on when you're doing the event and your brain's thinking the whole time. You have to like chill out for a few hours. You have to whatever, have a drink, talk to people, watch some TV or something, talk to your girlfriend or something. You got to do something. Just relax for 2 hours and then you can hope to go to sleep and then restart the day tomorrow. For players, by the way, the obvious one there is they're also getting affected even more so by what if you're the 4th playoff series? Bro, how are we supposed to time our prep, our food, and then get ready? Like, right, and we're going to go live now. It's not like a football game where it kicks off at 8 p.m. or that. You don't have that kind of space. But the problem is in history, when we look back on Wikipedia, no one clicks and sees what time the match was played. We just look at that as though you were like prepped for the Super Bowl. That was the greatest match of your life. And then lastly, I agree, the one that no one thinks about, Scrawny, is one of the best things that everyone in other esports games tells me about Counter-Strike is actually the way we have all the crowd mics set up, and we have between the rounds in the game the ability for players to sort of like evoke emotion from the crowd. What they love is how it has like an actual like sports atmosphere of like, oh my god, everyone's going crazy. Like, you think of some of the Cologne matches we've had, etc. If you think about this, if that's the 4th set, you could even have it be a good game, but people are just fatigued from like a 7 overtimes game between the 2 scrub teams earlier or so. Or even just the idea that like if you're fans, they can't swap in and out like you can online or like the talent does. They really are there for all the games like that. You could just get really fatigued. There's no sporting event in the universe where you just watch for 14 hours in a row. Like, that's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. And shout out PGL though, because I will say with Cluj, where, you know, this quad best of 3 stadium did happen. It was an arena where tickets allowed you in and out of the venue.
Oh, that's
because
good.
In that case, you know, you're able to leave, and luckily with Cluj, there's a lot of like walkable restaurants and malls and everything nearby.
Right.
So there's definitely, we saw a ton of traffic going back and forth, because the way we did the casting there as well to I think minimize the effect of this was like between the 2 of us, Alex and Chad, we agreed that we would alternate best of 3s. So they did the 1st and the 3rd, we did the 2nd and the 4th. And the reason for that is because it gave us 3 hours to walk out of the venue to go get food. Like, those guys went to the gym and grabbed food in between best of 3s for commentary. Like, you know, we actually had to plan our day to make sure that we could bring the appropriate energy to a cast throughout those 2 matches. But then by the time we got to the last one, you know, like there was literally a crowd interaction moment. Like, and they did the crowd mic so well where we could genuinely have a conversation, and you could hear every word so crisp from the desk to the casters. I remember just asking the crowd at one point, because I could feel their cheers kind of tapering off in the last map of the 4th best of 3 while they're watching Saw just get shit on. I was like, are you guys tired? And that got the biggest cheer, like of the last map of that series.
Fatigue,
so it's like,
yeah,
woohoo! And then and they were coming back the next day for another double best of 3. But imagine that in a venue like Blast Royal Arena, you're not allowed to leave the venue. There's no re-entry with tickets. So what? You're gonna fuel yourself on 4 best of 3s with overpriced nachos, like. At least in Cluj, you could go get a real meal and come back and reset throughout the day. And that's, again, I don't think it's disastrous yet. So I'm not trying to like flame Tios for their decision making yet, but it's just got the makings of what could be a really bad day. That then, unfortunately, and here's why it's like a fucking fuse on a dynamite, because like you're saying, we'll start to forget about games, etc., except for the day that it goes all 12 maps. And it goes up until 2 a.m. Now it has compromised. Instead of talking about the Counter-Strike, there will be a day where all we discuss is the flaw of the format and the scheduling. And then that undermines an entire day of playoffs Counter-Strike, which to me feels like, it feels criminal. So that's all.
By the way, even though I get why they sometimes have to like lock you in the venue and stuff, because it'd be hard to check the tickets in and out and all that things in some countries. Because remember, it's mainly stadiums where it is just for like a 2-hour or 3-hour concert. They're not used to dealing with someone doing 12 hours. It is still kind of mad though, the idea. It's like, you're locked in for 12 hours. Like, I'm not going to the fucking space shuttle or down in a submarine or something, Can I just go outside and breathe some air? Like, no, you're here till the end of the whole thing. Oh, God. Yeah. Anyway, and then it's overtime. And then also, I agree. Well, that's an added negative I hadn't thought of, which is no human. It should almost be like an actual war crime to make people survive for 12 hours on like hot dogs and fucking like sodas or whatever. Like, what's that even just doing? Gastrointestinally to someone at that point in time? Like, no one has the fortitude for that, You're supposed to eat one of those and just go like, tell you what, I better take the rest of the week easy. That's gonna do work.
Like you're saying, also, if you want fresh air, where's the only place you can get fresh air in a non-re-entry stadium is in the smoke pit. Like, you've got to go outside and hang out with all the cigarette smokers if you just want fresh air. Like nothing's pure here, dude. You're locked in for the Counter-Strike.
Okay. Maui, what is your bad point?
Mine is that despite the fact that this team has clearly raised its floor tremendously, and we're starting to see them as playoff locks every time. I feel like every tournament I watch them, I'm like, they're surely going to make it to the playoffs or be right at the cusp of making it. It's what they do in playoffs, and actually what one player does in particular now that is a worrying trend. And the team I'm talking about is the Mongols, and the player I'm talking about is Senzu, because this is now 4 consecutive series where he is just doing very poor work compared to his normal averages. And I watched back the Astralis Mongols game at PGL, and I mean, like, you can pin a lot of the rounds down to him just underperforming in a lot of these moments where he would normally get a multi-frag. He's unable to do so. I will say I did see some slip-ups, some flaws in some of the ways they lost rounds. It almost kind of sadly reminded me of Complexity of last year, where they could even be in an advantage state, but then just find a way to lose it, where a guy doesn't get a key kill. But then even looking at it, sometimes the breakdown when they're man advantage, it's actually Senzu who's actually just kind of messing up a situation for them. He doesn't get the kill on a trade that he's supposed to, where he's set up to get a second frag or a trade frag, and he doesn't get it. And I went through the numbers of his playoff series against Maus at the Major, his 2 playoff series at Katowice. By the way, they won one of those against Eternal Fire, but then they lost to Vitality. And then his BO3 against Astralis at Cluj. The average rating in those 8 maps, 4 series of play, is 0.80. That is horrendous. Like, that's like, if that was just a normal player through a group stage, you just cut him. Like, he's no longer on the team. Like, that's one of the worst drop-offs too, because in group stages, he's been their best player. He's just been their best player overall. I think that overall for the year, Blitz has been better for me because Blitz doesn't fall off in these playoff games. So now I have to just ask the question, like, is Senzu the Mongolians down? Like, that's what I'm starting to get from this guy. Okay. It's just every single predictable moment where he can play worse than what he's capable of, he does it. And so now that seems to be the one thing that's holding the Mongols back. And for me, I'm almost tying their future success and their ceiling to, is he able to overcome this individual issue he has? Because their teamwork is still decent. They're still setting themselves up for for the right kind of fights. I don't think they're vetoing necessarily badly. Maybe they could expand their map pool, improve in a couple things. There's a lot of little extraneous details that you could tack on here to say why they're doing badly in these moments. But the one and most glaring issue is that Senzu is a huge playoff choker at this point. He's an arena choker.
What do you think,
I would go on to say that, I mean, you're dead on, right? You're dead on. Those numbers don't lie. And you say, like, is he the next down? I almost want to compare him. I'll go out and say that I think Senzu might be the Xerxen of 2025. In that 2024 Xerxen was statistically the highest drop off between group stage and playoff games, if I'm not mistaken. Like numerically,
he was up there for sure.
He was.
He was the worst. Yeah, he was the worst for Maus.
Yeah,
I know that.
That's worst for Maus, and if I'm pretty sure it's like the of all the top teams, he was bad.
It's like people with I actually know the qualifying statement. It's of people that have played I think at least 2 arena series, because like people like James fell off, but he played 1 arena series or something like that.
Right,
so
sure.
I looked into this recently. Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's gonna be like Xerxen, because I've also to me, like, Mongols as of late has kind of been like they're like 6 to 12 months behind Maus. And maybe he in that case is 6 to 12 months behind Xerxen 1 for 1, which is promising because Xerxen finally was able to shed that, right? He just picked up Cluj. Like, I don't think it's a reason to stop believing in Mongols. I don't see them missing out on more playoffs. It's gonna inevitably happen at least once, I think. But I wouldn't question the whole team because here's the thing, your point is that it boils down so much so to almost one individual player. I think you can fix a player. He's got to have to figure that out. Maybe it comes from, this is almost like interlinking back with like what we were saying with the whole like scheduling, where you got to try to like time everything. Mongols is a team that's working with like very little support staff. Sports psychology, a dietitian. Like, I'm sorry, the Mongols aren't traveling the world with that. These guys are sharing bunk beds at boot camps, right? Like, they're raw dogging Counter-Strike in contrast to like the standards that have been popping up elsewhere that have gotten players like him who are having struggles like this out of those ruts. I don't think that staff is necessarily around him at the moment. Maybe it comes, maybe it never does. We really don't know enough about the Mongols, I think, in that regards. But it's worrying. It doesn't personally cause me to stop believing in the team, though.
Yeah, by the way, initially on Maui's angle, it definitely is a massive concern. I mean, I basically said this. I even said it actually going into the major playoffs, because we obviously saw the EliGE tournament. The idea they could lose to the Ents team, who ended up being all right. Like, that was never supposed to ever be possible. They were just coming off a heater. Everyone believed in them. In fact, even at the major, they smurfed through the Swiss system. It all looked awesome. Same thing every time. It's why actually you can draw parallels to Stown or the old Maus. They don't just do well in these groups, this with no pressure. They just flourish. They're like one of the absolute best. But then the worst thing is, because the drop-off is so stark, and particularly that one player. That one player is supposed to be, this year, a top 20 player if they can just get their shit together and he can get his shit together. Like, the talent is there. Like, by the way, think how insane that is. That Mongolian player will be top 20 in the world in Counter-Strike. Like, that's nuts. They still don't even have a developed scene over there. So I think, like, the problem is it's so jarring, the drop-off of how good they are, and then what happens when this one factor gets added on. It's just brutal. And I think that drop-off also means that now the joke is, even though they've only actually had a few tournaments, we already all are putting that, like, you're the new Maus. Basically, we're doing that whole thing of like, you're already like the chokers, and we're kind of sick of it, which is like, I agree with you, Scrawny. You can't give up on them yet. They're still so inexperienced. If anything, they actually got too good too fast. That's the problem. They went from just being also-rans to like, suddenly they were beating real top 10 teams, then going to the playoffs. So the issue is, they haven't had time to bed in. They haven't even been in that many playoff scenarios. So difference is, Maus really did dick around like that for like a year, maybe a year and a half or something. And even then, at least they, by the end, even if they were choking, they would like beat the normal team and then just lose to the elite team. The problem right now is Mongols would lose to anyone who sits down in the opposite seats at the moment. That's the worst part. And I agree with you, Maui. It's not even like there's some one-dimensional team. Like, they have the veto, they have tactics, they have fucking poise, they have calling, they have really nice spread of fragging, they have young players, they have one old... Like, everything's there. Everything's there to like... Also, that's also, by the way, why I won't be too harsh on them for right now. The average age of the team is still very young and still very inexperienced. So I'll still give you a little bit of chance. I'm not going to say you're done already. They could still level up in the next two. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say not again, but I mean, Sound is 18, so I'm pointing it out as a worrying trend. Senzu, and Sound is 22. Exertion is 20,
I was like, I feel really bad. I've been bullying this guy since we were 15. Fucking hell.
Yeah, no. Senzu's still a teenager,
Senzu's
and
18. Yeah, okay.
I give people the teenager pass for a bit, So that's, you'll grow out of it. Hopefully, I'm just saying it's something to keep an eye on. It's a narrative that I'm worried about when watching the Mongols, especially in arenas.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and also, I'll just throw one last detail in there. I'm just going to put this out there, right? Don't do what Heroic did, what Mouse did, which is once you notice a trend's come that everyone's saying you choke, and then the results say you choke, don't do the thing where it's like, we don't choke, and in fact, we're going to trash talk based on that. Like 9-10, that would have been fire if you were actually ready to win that series, mate. When you then every time, hey, kid, yeah, what? I'm just going to beat the shit out of you while you just fucking cry on the floor, pissing your pants. Like, what's the trash talk, bro? Like, the trash talk is you're going to knock me out in the game, isn't it? Like, you can't be like, hey, you are the noob. No, shit, oh, fuck, I can't walk or anything. Oh, bloody hell, pies are all over my face. What am I doing? This is a calamity. Like, that trash talk, you have to live up to it. If you do trash talk, you have to live up to the trash talk in it. Because I was ready for that hype. I was ready for you all to send KD in home and then we'd all go, it's a fraud, and it's a fraud. But instead, I had to go, well done, KD, and you've won another bloody playoff series. Now I guess I have to fucking pretend this is all legitimate and this team can do something. Oh, and now you've beaten FaZe too. You just ruined the whole fucking tournament. Why don't you? But don't, whatever you do, don't win the tournament yourself, you fucking bum anyway. So
the worst thing about that, dude.
I'm on your side 9-10. Just give me something to work with, mate. Give me something to work with.
Especially when Kadian's going to bring such lame trash talk back to the table, dude. That on stage,
Come
like,
on.
oh, I only see replies from verified accounts on Twitter. Dude, dude, I've seen Kadian talk so much smack, and that's what he brought to the table right after as well, trying to walk back like, I mean, how many times have you seen Kadian be all ferocious and fiery? And then this time, not only his comeback sucks, and then he also like tries to get like heartfelt for a moment where he's, guys, I apologized after the game, and I just don't understand why this hate has to come with it. And you know what? In that moment, I literally thought to myself, I looked at him and I went, holy fuck, Astralis got him. He has been Astralis PR'd. Like I've never seen Kadian do that before. You know what I mean? Like, and okay, cool. We still got the whole clapping thing, and he still tried to get them on their side. But that was a glimpse for a moment where I was like, oh my god, he might be a cloned version that Astralis has created or something. I don't know. That's not the Kadian I knew, man. But like with 9-10, like offering that up, I was like, okay, here we go. This rivalry is gonna be sick. I had to say it, dude. Kadian, you let me down in that moment.
No, that might actually explain, Maui, what's going on. Basically, they grow a new Cadian in a vat every single event. By the time the event's he's used up. That's why when he first comes out in the early games, like a baby deer when it's born, it can't quite walk and it's stumbling around. That's him with the MP9. Yeah. He's getting his hand-eye coordination down, you know. But as the event goes on, he gets stronger and stronger and stronger. I agree, though. The reason that trash talk was absolute ass as well is because, bro, that would have been sick trash talk like 7 years ago when being verified was like Twitter gave you the badge and only you could access. Anyone who pays $8 gets access to just see dimensions with only verified. Like, what you're saying is, well, I've got $8 a month. Like, that's not even trash talk at this point in time, is it? Like, who are you trash talking?
If he had said like, I only get replies from people with more than 10,000 followers. Like, even that's kind of lame, but it's like, at least it's relevant, dude. Yeah, it was
exactly. So basically 9-10, it was all queued up, mate, for you to just knock this one out the park. But then you let this guy with his whack-ass trash talk go fight for the belt while you're just watching. Who wants to see that? Right. My bad point is if you pull up, this is on Reddit, Launders did a show, that HLTV show where it's like fans of so-and-so come here, so they copy that HLTV thread style. And on the show, they had a thing where they showed, using Nero stats, that EliGE in FaZe now is the most traded player in FaZe, more than Carrigan. So essentially, like, he is playing almost like fucking full entry as a player, almost like he has to like carry the whole game. And everyone who isn't Carrigan has gone back massively in terms of how much they get traded. Like, by the way, Rain, it used to be Rain and Carrigan. Rain is like right below the line, by the way. He's like right with almost like the passive pack. Even Brokey's gone back loads. Frozen already, understandably, was going to go back anyway. He's like playing the Rops role at this point in time. So the weirdest thing about this to me is, like, first of all, you think of Brokey, he's like the high, up-tempo, early round, make some crazy play. Apparently not. Rain himself, who you think of like, this is the guy where you just let him take his own duels and he out mechanics. Apparently not. Apparently he's just playing more like old school style. Like, the reason I don't like this is because EliGE clearly does need to be one of the best players in that team if you want them to win. You could see the good and the bad in Cluj. Like, on paper, they should have won that tournament. Like, they have to look at that tournament and go, that's a failure for us. Like, not, and by the way, reading they lost the fucking third place game. It looked kind of silly. So I think the potential really is there in this team. They still have all the FaZe magic that everyone wants, but what they haven't got that they had in that first lineup when they had Twists and Rops and all the others is that one somehow the roles just worked. It almost like you felt like they never even had to have a conversation. People's styles, the way people played off each other. This one, they need to cook a bit more with this one. Like, I think when you have a player of the quality of EliGE, think about that stat last year where he was like second in like damage done for rounds 1 or something. Like, bro, that guy doesn't have to be going in first all the time. You know what I mean? We can share some of the load in terms of trading, surely.
I mean, you would think that Kerrigan, Rain would be a little bit more forward for a lot of these plays. I don't mind. I think him getting traded as much as he is almost that he gets to pair up with Frozen, who is always getting these trades. That's one thing where I find a bright spot in it. That again, like I made the point that they're the best 1-2 punch because if EliGE doesn't get the initial kill, Frozen gets it. So I think that their synergy is something that I'm still hopeful for. I know it's a little bit alarming or worrying right now. The line that I had at the bounty when the roster was debuting, though, is that I'm not really going to be too hard on them until 2 months because that's how long I need. Like normal teams, I give them 3, but then Kerrigan, I give less time because Kerrigan, I just believe in more than other people who catch them up to speed.
So the Pro League now we should be ready then, yeah? We should be ready about now.
Too bad they're not playing it.
Oh, yeah, true.
Too bad they're not playing Pro League. Yeah. Whatever the next event is, though, I'm going to start judging them.
Blast Open.
Yeah, yep. I'll start judging them at Lisbon as strongly as I would a team that's been together for 3 months, because they're of the caliber that they should be held to that standard. Rops and Vitality has already won a championship. So do I believe in Kerrigan as much as Apex and Xtaz? I feel like I should believe in him more. Lately, it's been the opposite. I'm still not too worried. Like, I'm just not ringing the alarm bells just yet for FaZe. That's my take.
I think it's like I'm hopeful. I think I'm with you here, Maui. Where like I'm hopeful that this graphic is just an indication that Kerrigan has a new toy. Like it's no doubt a very different looking FaZe role for role when they've played these last couple of events, and I would like to think that EliGE is doing what he does well, very well within FaZe. Now there are still moments where like we see him go one step beyond, right? Like he just needs to be able to chill after 2 kills instead of always trying to get the third, and that's I think I'm hopeful a refinement process that should be occurring right now during the time off since they're skipping Pro League before they come into Lisbon. And if there is like this walk back between the stats in this graphic that I'm looking at right here, then fingers crossed, I think that's the FaZe that starts to win events, definitely. Because it is, dude, it's just weird to me, like, even, this whole, like changing EliGE for Rain outside on Nuke, something that we didn't talk about in the cast, we didn't notice it, to be honest, but, like, it's like, dude, how much is EliGE taking up? Like, I saw an article headline saying EliGE is now calling on, like, 3 halves of certain maps. Like, how much space is he going to get? Like I understand EliGE is a phenomenal player, but it didn't feel like when Twists came in, for example, that he was given, they created a system around their new tool, right? Like that's what EliGE is. He's a new tool for Kerrigan. He's somebody who I think needs a lot of space and needs to be propped up and can deliver in those moments. But I really just hope somebody's there to like make him take a step back every once in a while, right? Like I don't think EliGE should just have as many hands on the reins as maybe he does at the moment. I don't think it's enough to sink FaZe, but it's definitely, I don't think a trend that should continue any further in this direction. Like surely this is the maximum we see him in terms of like needing to be traded in entry attempts, because I think the sweet spot is just for him to take a step back once they've proven that like the direction they're going in could work. Okay. Fingers crossed.
I'd like to see someone do that thing where you just use like a computer to check all the words said in this episode and it makes like the map of all the time. Because we've got like strap-ons, Kerrigan's new toy. There's all sorts going on here. All sorts going on here. Also, did anyone see that thing where on social media, Kerrigan actually just off at like Finland in like the 2 feet of snow, just like rediscovering himself or something. He's fucking like heading north like Superman to like see a fucking hologram of God B and ask what you must change. Father, what must I do to master CS2? It's like, you must stop baiting EliGE so much, son, and make Rain go first. Why is he still in the team? Oh, fucking even you're a critic. I love Rain. Anyway, that's enough about God B, the fictional hologram, criticising Rain there. Fucking hater. He was the MVP of a major, you dickhead. Anyway, that was me who did all that. It was a one-man play. Me as Kerrigan talking to God B, the hologram. Now, I've done my indulgent point, which is, if you notice, my point is just basically always, my players are like it good and should get better things and everything should just be done for them. Whereas Maui's is just, I am good. I should get all the things done for me. And everyone who does things good for me, they're good as well. So, what I like is we've got a thought of theme. We've met with our narcissism. We've sort of overlapped in some ways. Anyway, speaking of things that are better than you'd expect, don't know if that's true about that last segment there, but whatever. You can be the judge of that, subjective taste and all that. How about the Turtle Beach Stealth 700s? Because one of the things is, first of all, I actually was excited to see what some of these are like, because I've always mentioned I have been an audiophile. I said audiophile for a long, long time. Since my youth, believe it or not. And I always used to buy the really expensive headsets. And I used to be like on some Cadian shit, like, oh, you buy gaming headsets, do you? You fucking peasant. I wouldn't even listen to that. What's that? Like two Campbell's soup cans with a piece of string between it. You'll never get any quality out of that, because one of the worst things about headsets back in the day was the build quality was garbage, wasn't it? Because the reason they made them really cheap and just slapped like pro gaming headset, and they had some pro like, and then, like, the second that the camera, like, we got all the shots, he's like, right, get this shit off me. Give me some real headset. Oh, fucking hell. Even just holding them on my ears hurt at that point. They're not like that. The Turtle Beach ones are mega. Like, first of all, they've got, like, industry-leading tech, which is they've got the first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter. So, basically, you can plug it in, like, two devices at once. So, you can go between your PC and your console just by pressing a button. If you were playing on your console and you wanted to hook it up to your phone, you could take calls on it, you could play music on it, etc. So, imagine me listening to early 2000s Creed with arms wide open, and then I'm just fragging out in Call of Duty. That's a vibe if ever I heard of it. Or whatever you kids do. I don't know, listen to the fucking SpongeBob theme tune while you play your Fortnite, building a fort or so. I don't fucking know what it is. Is that why it's called Fortnite? I don't even know. Whatever you're into nowadays, it does that shit too. It does my boomer shit and your zoomer shit, okay? And so for a limited time only, you can get 10% off your entire order. It's on screen with the code CSGO at turtlebeach.com. Don't miss out. Stay warm and level up your game with 10% off at turtlebeach.com using the promo code for CSGO. As I said, they're way better than I expected. They're comfortable. I have a massive head and ears, but this fits right over the ears. It doesn't fit and crush them, etc. Great battery time. It has like 80 hours or something like that. It has the quick charge function if you want to really quickly do it. Also, they don't just do headsets. They do like flight and racing simulator controllers, keyboards, mice. They do it all. So anyway, go to grab some Turtle Beach Gen 3 Stealth 700s like me. Level up your gaming experience. TurtleBeach.com, code what? CSGO. You know it. The best one that Valve's made in the last 20 years. And that's the code CSGO, not CS2. Fuck CS2. Love CSGO. By show your love for CSGO. Show that you actually did love and appreciate CSGO by just making this one purchase right now. If you don't, then you hated CSGO. Gabe Newell will cry. And also, you're the reason why Rops can't always make those pixel jumps. That part is all not actually part of the ad. I added all of that. They just would like you to know it's a really good headset. And you can get 10% off your order using CSGO. Right, that's enough of that. Again, going to be interested to see the emails about that one. So we're now going to go into the ugly segment. Not speaking of, again, about me doing another ad read. So now what ugly thing are we talking about now? This is great, more Scrawny, because you've actually fulfilled the meme I said before. You're now about to be incredibly self-indulgent on some shit that just affects you. So 100%. Go on, tell us, what's ugly in the world at the moment, Scrawny?
Yeah, what's ugly in the world of Counter-Strike is, again, we're running into the theme of formats and broadcast. If you wanted to talk Counter-Strike, bring in an analyst. I think that what's ugly in the Counter-Strike world right now is that less and less casters, and by extension analysts, are actually getting playoff games.
He quickly added analysts there as well. He just meant casters. Fuck analysts. I don't like.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, actually, it's in some cases we just had Dust Moret on a playoffs on a grand finals. So actually, some people are still getting opportunity. But I think that's the contrast. That is the important element.
I can't even tell if that's like a compliment or a shot across the bow. Like.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, right.
It is a compliment.
Okay.
It's a compliment because we need to make sure that people who have, I mean, he's never done an arena ever.
Oh, true.
So people who don't have arena experience can only get truly better at this job and elevate to an elite level if they get the reps in those sorts of environments. And
no, if someone had told me that I was going to see Dust does Cluj, I'd have thought, wow, his career's really gone down the drain. He's had to start doing pornography. Fuck it up.
Would you be that surprised, though?
Listen. If you imagine him with a little Ron Jeremy mustache, he could fucking probably pull it off, mate. He'd have sort of like reverse swag or something, I reckon. So I don't know. Anyway, Dust didn't give us permission to do any of that speculation there. He's a good guy, and let's read it back in.
So many more jokes to be made from his past that I won't make.
Read it back in.
So more people need to be present in playoffs. Okay, I will say this. I'm bringing this point up coming off of the back of a Cluj-Napoca that had 4 casting duos hired for the event, but only 2 casting duos actually for playoffs.
Right.
Now, I want to say that clearly that it was PGL because PGL is actually the protector of the gold standard. In recent years, right, PGL had always hired 4 duos. I'm speaking specifically for majors because PGL previously, as far as when I've come up in the space, since Antwerp and onwards, PGL was only doing majors. During that time, there were events that would do this current formula where they hire more duos than they plan on using at playoffs. It is not PGL's fault that things have been undermined to this point, but here we are nonetheless. Okay, the gold standard that had always been in place was 4 pairs of duos hired for the event would mean everybody gets 1 playoff game at the very least. You go back to Antwerp, that included the likes of Vince and Bleh. You had Vince casting a a major playoff match. That's huge. How many times has that happened for Vince, right? And he is one of these fringe commentators, not inside of of the trio of duos that it alternates in the space. So that was a very important opportunity that if you were not in a cemented duo, you would always have that door that you could hopefully shoot for, right? Like that's what you aspire for. Everybody loves to do this job, whether you're an analyst, a caster, host, no matter what. But what we do it for selfishly, right, is to get to those biggest games, like the dream of being in a stadium, in the arena, etc. That has got to be your driving force, I think, as a commentator. And despite having so many more events now this year, the events are off the charts. The opportunity for playoff games is actually becoming far and fewer between. And I think that in the long run, like, it kind of undermines casting, because I remember how I got better at playoffs was thanks to things like DreamHack Opens actually having stadium portions where you could go to a DreamHack Open with tier 2 teams at best sometimes, and you would still at least get to commentate live in an audience to at least 500 to 1,000 people. That is critical experience in order for you to get used to things like crowd work, voice control in a room that large. Like, there are entire elements of this job that you can only practice live, and you have to be in those environments to get that. We are now in 2025, where unfortunately, weekend like the weekend portions of events when we get to playoffs is turning into the kind of the same few duos. And I'm not saying this because I expect more playoffs. Like, I'm in a phenomenal spot. I'm saying this from the guy because right now, you know, you've got, like, I'm doing all of Blast playoffs, all of Blast grand finals. In fact, I've got PGL, who have now used us for playoffs recently. We don't do the ESL playoffs, but we also don't do ESL events. Me and Mohan show up for Katowice and Cologne. I would never anticipate doing any of those playoffs. In fact, I would like to consider myself the 4th duo at those events. And if I'm the 4th duo, then at least you would think that the 3rd duo, who, if we use Kato for an example, would be Dinko and Moses, should be getting those sorts of opportunities, because it's just better for everybody. Like, it's better for Counter-Strike when the wealth of broadcast talent that we have gets comparable levels of experience and reps. Dinko, to me, is the play-by-play who has really broken through as having the chops for this job, and somebody who will be able to do these big moments given more time. When the opportunity is open, because that's the problem. He could do it today. He did it with Dallas. Him and Moses doing Dallas, ENCE versus FaZe in, I believe, 2023. Dude, that was one of the maps of the year on Ancient. And they did that from this. Nobody knows this. You go back and listen to that cast. It sounds like it's great. It's a playoff game. They're in the thick of it. They were in a different building, essentially casting a playoff game from a remote casting environment. These aren't the kinds of things that are going to allow for Dinko to grow into the next best play-by-play. Like, these kinds of limitations are only, like, for whatever reason, more and more increasing. And again, maybe it's budgetary. I mean, it's more than likely budgetary, right? But it's people are losing the runway that is important to keep the Counter-Strike broadcast talent at the S tier that it has earned in terms of its reputation. So, at the very least, I would hope that with majors, we protect this gold standard, which is if you are hired for a major, you should get to do a major playoff. at least one game, I think. You know,
Okay.
like the way it works is there's 4 quarters, there's 4 duos. Ding, ding, ding. Like
Yeah.
that just seems like a no-brainer. And I'm worried, you know, sorry, this is a long one, but like even Shanghai was a weird one just because we were only 2 duos that did playoffs.
Right.
I can't think of another time where 2 duos did an entire playoffs at a major. Now, again, it wasn't a PGL major. We were the English broadcast for an otherwise Chinese major. I think that really needs to be emphasized. Again, I'm not trying to take a shot at PGL. It was a very unique case, a one-of-a-kind case in that way. But there is this scary trend where I can think of people who I would love to see in stadiums, and unfortunately, I don't get to see that as frequent.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the analyst side of it is in an okay state. I mean, I think we got Steel at Katowice, for example. We got Dust at Cluj. So I feel like it more so does pertain to the caster side of things because it feels like they're having I mean, even at Kato, for example, there's only 2 BO3s per day. Maybe this is actually one of the rare. It doesn't have to be a rare advantage, but it is an advantage of. It could have been an advantage for the 4 BO3 day. I'll say it could have been. It could have been you hire them like the other 2 duos to do 1 quarterfinal each on these super long days. Everybody does 1 BO3 for those days, and then you send some of them home. But for growing up talent, I will say with certainty that the work you do in an arena, you do feel a little bit different. Speaking from experience, I think I don't know what the first arena game I actually did was. Oh, well, actually, technically, the first Epicenter we did, Thorin had an arena component, actually.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like everything felt like a comprehensive part of the tier 1 picture for me. But I know that because some people haven't worked the arenas, and sometimes in an event, I won't even work the arena. It's pretty rare, but like it's happened to me like once or twice, maybe just like a Katowice one time or something. But it feels completely different. Like when you're doing it there, you feel like you're a little bit more nervous. For certain events, PGL's good at this. You talk to the crowd. For Blast events, you talk to the crowd. The only ESL event I'm aware of that you talk to the crowd was Dallas, actually, which is why I love doing Dallas. But yeah, you get a completely different feeling for it of what you can do, what you shouldn't do. You kind of get to feel out those sort of moments a little bit more. And being a good showman, it's necessary to get the reps in. So for people to not be given reps is unfortunate. It's obviously something that will elevate the next generation of people. And I feel like in general, there's a conversation that's floating around, and maybe I'd spin it to that lightly, that there's just less and less casting opportunities for tier 1 events for people. It doesn't feel like as many chances are being given. Like the only real duo that's been given a chance lately has, I guess it's just been Moses and Dinko. I feel like there hasn't really been anybody else in these tier 1 events that have been giving anything, because Jackie and Vince were getting some stuff. Anders and Henry were, even though they're both very skilled commentators, are kind of grandfathered in by the fact that they're already well established. So yeah, I just think I don't know. Like it's a complicated point, and that's why it's good in this ugly category, because these opportunities are pretty slim pickings at this point. A lot of people thought that the open circuit was going to allow for more opportunities, but I think that a lot of those hopefuls for the open circuit giving them talent opportunities as tier 1.5, tier 2 commentators probably have to wait till the overlapping events happen.
By the way, the other reason it's also an ugly point is we have loads of really good casters. We have loads of people who could do the job. It's just, as you say, at the moment, like people have their own people. And then also you can just tell when certain events just didn't want to spend loads of money, like bringing people to the arena component. Like they did the thing back in the day where they just send people home after the group stage, or they did, which, by the way, I've always said this many times on the shows before. It's the most awkward shit in the world when you're in that like green room or you're at the hotel and then you see that caster and you forget if you're already booked in for the playoffs. Like, where are you going? And then it's like, you feel like an asshole because then it's like, well, I'm going home, aren't I? Like, you're like, oh shit, yeah, well, see ya, I'm just going to stay and do the playoffs, lol. Like, that just sucks for everyone, bro. Like, if you hire them to do the group stage, you've got to eventually blood them in and give them a chance to get their stripes on the playoffs and do all that shit. Also, I'll just say this as well. The reason why it's actually good to have 4 sets for the quarterfinals, well, one, if you're actually doing, we'll go back to that other point. If you're actually doing 4 BO3s in one day, You can't make people do more than one BO3. Come on, be fucking human. That's outrageous if it goes too many games on the first game. You're going to fatigue the casters. Also, secondly, ideally, that way, each day, it's only possible to do one. That way, even the best duo does one match that day. Everyone preps for that one match. We're not thinking about the next match, or we're not only thinking about this one and seeing how good. You're not spreading everyone too thin. And also, you're then going to actually make it so that even the best duo in the whole tournament can only do 3 playoff series. Well, first of all, if you've got a BO5 final, that's huge anyway. We already keep the final for the biggest ones. We're not putting any noobs on that anyway. So part of your status as a caster actually is, you actually want to sort of control the supply of the top casters. You don't want them on every single game, or it actually does make it, they just become another voice. You almost get the word fatigue from them. I also want it as well, by the way, where you're going to put the casters for viewership on the biggest games anyway. Why not try the newer casters out on the game that no one gives a fuck about? If FaZe is playing Saw, put them on that game for fuck's sake. Let them talk about FaZe a little bit. Let them have a little bit of hype if Saw gets going in the game. By the way, even as the fans, where a lot of us don't even give a shit about that game, you at least give us some like different variety. Oh, I haven't heard these people do an arena game before. Let's see how they interact with the crowd, how they get their chops. No, I think it's a good point. I think it's a good one. I think there's some good angles for that one. And also, I'm like you. I'd like to see a lot of other people given a chance. I think a lot of people. By the way, same thing happened to you. You were someone who was in that Harry and Hugo position for many years, where it's all the circumstances that changed for you. But it probably sucks being behind the 3 big duos and knowing like, fuck, they might be better than me now, but I can't even get a chance to get in there.
I think I think it truly sucks when you can't see a chance at upward mobility. Right? There should always be a door that feels open, and I would say that, like, unfortunately, that's what kind of feels closed at the moment. I would imagine, like, I'm saying this point from somebody who's doing a shit ton of playoffs, so it's not my problem, but it's more so like, I would like to hope that people continue to have that road forward, right? More than anything, like, and again, at the very least, I think it should be for the majors, because majors are where I don't know. It's like, as a TO, I understand you want to put what is considered S tier talent on the biggest matches so that you can say, look, we got all the best talent, but you can also earn points by taking shots on people who have provenly deserved it, right? Like, Blast gave us a major grand finals in Paris. Nobody was complaining about that. It felt like we got our flowers in that moment. PGL for the first CS2 major put Harry and Hugo on their major finals. Harry and Hugo, who criminally don't cast as many finals as they could, and look at the celebration that was for them in that moment. It's like, I understand this idea that, like, oh God, we got to get the best, but you can also score points if you stay in tune with the community, you reward people who those groups of people would like to see celebrated at the same time. So, I think, I think it's just a weird one where, like, I just hope a door stays open for those kinds of moments, right? Because it is the most important step in our commentary careers. And at majors, that generally tends to get protected, except, blasted Harry and Hugo dirty at Paris. They cut them before. I will say ESL for IEM Rio, their last major, gave Mohand and I the very first quarterfinal of the playoff. But getting to stick around for that extra day to say I was part of the Rio playoffs was incredibly important. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten to see that fucking venue packed to the brim with Fury fans.
Yeah, of course.
And I understand that literally took ESL paying me an extra broadcast day, 2 rates for sticking around, for the off days, etc. So it's like, yeah, it cost them more money to do that, but it was my reward for being who I am, and them still recognizing that. I appreciate that immensely. So I really hope that that kind of TOs can keep it, again, at least at majors, this trend going forward.
By the way, obviously as well, we don't have that many majors, so I've always wanted the major to be like a celebration of the season that we've had. So let's get all the best duos and give them a quarterfinal. That's like a reward. Yeah, I'm with you.
Again, just the timing wise, the reason I thought of this, dude, is because, Duncan, you were at Cluj-Napoca. 10 years ago, that major happened. And I remember, this is from like the war times of before me, but the older guys in the space now still talk about how Cluj was one of those moments where the whole group kind of put their foot down to make sure, like, Moses was included, etc. So it is important that every once in a while, when we start to see standards retract in this space in terms of broadcast, like, this is why I'm using this as a platform right now, because Cluj is on my mind. And that was an important history, like, moment for CS talent. So needs to be said again.
Also, just want to follow up that I think it says a lot about Scrawny's character that even in a position where he's getting a strong amount of grand finals, that he still brings this up and recognizes what the tier 2 commentators are
Yeah.
having to go
He still
through.
goes back
Man
to
of
the
the
hood
people.
every now and then, hand out a few $100 bills to those kids. Hey, listen, back up your
Exactly.
ideas, kid. You could be where I am one day. You'll never be on the bloody finals, but you might be able to do a quarterfinal. Take that and go with it, Vince.
You got to cover your tracks, I've shut the door behind me,
Okay.
but I need to make it seem like I've left it open.
Yeah, no, you've shut the door behind you, welded it shut and thrown away the key and then gone, come on, someone invent a bloody door and let these guys in, will you?
Well, somehow me trying to spin this into wholesome just
go
became
for it.
that.
Just
But
go for
I'll
it.
move into my ugly point.
Yeah.
All right. I'm actually changing my ugly point because there was a news article that was released while we were recording this podcast.
Okay. All right, breaking news, what's coming off the wires,
Yeah.
man? What the fuck are we doing now?
Yeah,
It's a
it's
pre-recorded
that
podcast.
actually-
Okay.
Yeah, it's that PGL actually announced, and so let me you got to hear out the whole point,
on.
okay? So PGL announced that they're changing their prize pool split for PGL Bucharest. Instead of just front loading it 1.25 million for all of the teams and just they have to deal with the money how they want, they're splitting all of the prize money winnings between prize money, which is supposed to go to players, and club rewards. And the reason this is an ugly point isn't because PGL's following any kind of trend or anything like that. What I think that this could potentially do, and this is speculation, is that if there are backdoor dealings with some of these top organizations and TOs like ESL who are signed to exclusivity behind the scenes, which is what Ema implied with his tweet about what their calendar is going to look like. This could expose it completely, because what would the excuse be if there's a $200,000 club reward for first place and a $200,000 prize money reward? And so I actually think this is a very shrewd move by Silvio. Disclaimer, I'm employed by PGL frequently. It's just that I think this is a good idea by him, because what excuse are they going to have next time for these organizations when Navi, Vitality, Spirit, etc. bow out of these tournaments, because the club reward's right there. So the prize money should be of equivalent value, and the club reward is even of a greater value. Like, the last place teams at ESL Pro League don't even get a club reward, by the way. Like, at some of the tournaments, they don't get any reward for coming in last place. PGL is giving you a club reward for coming in last place now. So there's no real reason, if you're even a lower tier org, that you should be turning these down, because bare minimum, you're going to get X amount of money for even showing up. So I think that this is, it's not that maybe this is ugly today, but it could reveal something in the very near future when those same orgs turn down PGL Bucharest, and they say, and then we just have to ponder, why are they doing that when the reward's right there?
I think also ugly in the sense that this is going to be misinterpreted as well, potentially, as PGL, like the other TOs now, they're just bending their knee to them. Like, I want to emphasize what you are, Mauisnake, and that this could definitely expose something, right? Which is kind of fingers crossed. Silvio in a war room, man.
He is.
I am also hired by PGL. But yeah, that could be that's like the fun ugly portion of this note. I think the bad, ugly portion of it is just going to be people are going to say oh, there it is, PGL, Bucket and bent a knee. Now they're going to pay out the teams as well. So I think we'll see what comes of it. But never a dull moment, eh?
Okay.
I'm really curious in Thorin's thought.
First of all, you've already preempted my tweet. There's no point even doing it now, is there, Scrawny? You've just said it on the fucking air. You just went and tweeted it. Just did the fucking meme, didn't he? So no, the problem I have with this one is, one, there's two ways you can interpret it. It either is just that they've decided, taking essentially a totally different business model hasn't worked. People have chosen against the market, chosen against us in this analogy. So we just have to mirror them, which, by the way, no one really wants that either. No one wants, for example, I think in all areas of esports, it sucks when everyone just thinks if we all make everything homogenized, then we'll just all get a share. It's you want people doing their own vision. If your vision really is prize money, look, you're going to probably have a different way to get the teams to come. No one knows what the backroom dealings are yet. I would imagine, by the way, forthcoming, someone like Richard Lewis will probably find something out about that. He has his connections out there. People will get the info eventually. It does certainly look like that, though, because the problem is, this is why when you don't know the insider angle, it's really hard to speculate, because from the outside it just looks like teams are well, look, obviously we take the club reward because that's where we get the money. If we don't get any club reward, it's just prize money, then that's just the players get that. And now I have to hassle my players then I need some of the percentage of that. You don't get 100% prize money. You have all these category aspects that don't need to be there in terms of concerns. But if it's certainly the case, as you say, this essentially should instantly expose if there is a sort of conspiracy behind the scene, a cartel, as it were, that's essentially the fuck PGL cartel, and it's just we only do ESL events no matter what. Like, I'm with you, because here's what will give it away, Maui. It's not even if all the top teams do it. If not even one of them goes, then it's a giveaway, mate. Because that's where, if I still know that Na'Vi and Spirit of them are not going, then I'm definitely going as Team Liquid, because I've just seen bloody Astralis get third. I'm going, and I get the club share too, then let's fucking send the boys there. Let's get like a top 4 or top 8, let's rank it. But if even those stunts, because remember, that team isn't like the best, but the org is a massive org. If even those orgs are all sort of silently falling in line and no one's breaking the fucking blockade, as it were, then yeah, there's obviously some sort of like mini embargo almost against fucking PGL, which would suck. That's different. It's one thing if people choose it for business reasons, like publicly, like they want to get this money and have the recoup, and we don't want to run in the black, we don't want to always be losing, but that's totally understandable. If it is behind the scenes, like, open circuit, be a shame if we just didn't attend half the events, all collectively, we all agree, fuck them, like, none of us attended it. That is sinister at that point in time, you know what I mean? Because here's the thing, just like the Louvre agreement, you can be public about it. If we can actually do real exclusivity, make it like actually like, hey, we get signed to ESL circuit, you're going to see us in that circuit, make it a full thing. The fact you're doing it behind closed doors is what would make me a bit disturbed. So I'm with you, I'd actually say it's a very good ugly point. I can see ways in which it could be one person's fault and the other one, but right now, it actually, this new information, if anything, muddies the waters more, where I actually think now is where you'll get a chance to sort of see, maybe by their conspicuous absence, what the real situation is. We might actually be able to infer what's going on now. Yeah, I'm with you. Right, the last point is, it's funny enough, it's a bit like the Mongols one, because it's only because the Mongols exist that everyone's just chilling on this team. But look, we have a Mongols in fucking Europe, sort of, depending on what you want to do politically with Outworks. It's called Eternal Fire. Bro, this team is fucking... I would put this team in a group stage. I think there might be like 2 teams in the whole world I could actually feel confident would beat them. Like, even then I might get tense for a map or 2. They can cook so many fucking teams. They could take your FaZe clans, your Maus. They can just actually, not even just beat them, actually clap them. They can come in there, Xantares peak, Woxic win a clutch, Jota just have like fucking outfrag the second best player on the other team, it's just a new addition. You can, by the way, Anubis, they're actually just the best team in the world on that map. Like, quite literally, a map that like only a couple of teams even ban, by the way, because everyone bans Train or Vertigo back in the day. They can always get that in a series, so you are guaranteed an electric atmosphere in a match. But, and by the way, and then also, Xantares is one of the most underrated players of all time. He is one of the best riflers in the world. Even at his age, he's still fucking sick. You would never know that was his age. You would assume he's 25 tomorrow, right? This guy, I want to see him actually have a chance to win an MVP award. He's never going to get that if he can't make it to the motherfucking playoffs. He's never going to get top 5 on HLTV. He's like EliGE. They're always going to have that, oh, congrats, there's 18th. It's like, me, I'm better than like 10 people above me. The problem is I don't have a chance. The problem with Eternal Fire is, bro, you drop them into an arena and fucking hell, the stage just keeps swallowing them. Or it just like, they never quite can get the game over the line when it's close. And the reason it actually sucks is, and also, by the way, they've also got their own like massive rabid fan base that couldn't, I'm no doubt, fill like a fucking semi-final stage and go crazy with the atmosphere. If you don't know, if Turkish football's crazy, it's all flares and fucking flags and super ultras and shit like that. That's like, literally, people say it's like some fucking war vibes over there when you go to a derby game, etc. So I actually, despite what people think about me thinking about like their fans and their fucking own and all that shit, I actually like to watch this team play. I want to see them come with that full like fucking haymaker style into the playoffs, and I don't want to see them just in a group stage knockout phase and then do nothing in the play. I want to see them actually come and knock the fuck out of like a top 5 team in a semi-finals and just go to the final, and then let's see Xantares cook. So I think I have to put it as ugly because I don't think it's as bad as Mongols, but at the same time it's like, bro, I keep waiting. We're all pulling for you to do it, for fuck's sake. We actually want this team to be a legit top team. Remember, they've been high in the rankings even because of some of their placings, so it's just time. It's time for Eternal Fire to do it in the playoffs in an arena.
I think the fun part about this is that to me, it's almost the head-to-head between Mongols and Eternal Fire, because I almost feel like there's only room for one of them. You know, they're both trying to, like, they're having this uptick at the same time. They've got some of the same issues. One team is incredibly young, the other one not so much. But I just, you know, that to me, like, that's the rivalry that I'm actually cheering for in 2025 the most, is that head-to-head. Because, like I said earlier with the Mongols, eventually they're going to miss out on a playoffs. That was Eternal Fire this time. That was their event that they just did it at now, right? Like, this is a team that did go head-to-head in playoffs at a stadium in Katowice, just one event ago. Eternal Fire, there you've cashed in your one-off. Mongols still kind of get that get out of jail free card. I don't think Eternal Fire can continue to keep on choking, but what makes me nervous is that over time, that's what happened in 2024, right? Remember, they started strong in Katowice. They had PGL at the major in Copenhagen was another good event, but it's the in-betweens that they really were not able to keep consistency at. And that's what scares me, is it's like, they've already kind of had an extra year of runway. Even though I'm drawing this comparison between them and the Mongols, they showed us more promise in 24 at the start of it, and then there was just irrelevancy. So the problem with that team for me is like in some of their biggest moments, it's actually still been Major who just like, he's the guy that doesn't choke. Like he got them into the Royal Arena at the Copenhagen Major in their last qualification game for playoffs.
True.
He was hands down the best. And it's like, you're not getting that kind of performance out of him all the time because you shouldn't. You shouldn't have to. And then, like you're saying, Duncan, when they get on the stage, dude, the whole team just disappears. So, yeah, it's ugly. That's for damn sure. But I think that hopefully this year won't. My promise is that for 2025, it's them or the Mongols. But I would like to think that it's going to come from this Xantares Woxic duo. In that, like, once Xantares can make it click once, then I think the streak occurs, dude. I think they're one good event away, hopefully, because in stadiums, let's just go back to Bounty. Like, no problem there. It is specifically stages and stages only.
Yeah, in studios.
You can write them off easily.
Yeah. I like the way, even though it's actually completely arbitrary, he just decided, like he was in fucking Squid Game or something. Like, the problem is, Mongols in Eternal Fire, only one of you may progress. You must battle each other.
I know.
Why is this a new condition? Okay.
Yeah.
It's like Vince McMahon or something. Like the loser leaves town.
Only one nationality.
You know what I'm saying, though, right?
I know.
It just feels like when like Katowice's and Cologne's are 16 playoffs or like there's 8. It just feels like they're 7th and 8th, and that's not always going to happen.
Listen, it's like you said on that analogy before. If you think back in the day about all the up and comers, there was you and Launders, there was Harry and Hugo, there was Vincent Dost. Not everyone's going to make it. You know what? Some of the little fucking turtles die on the beach. They get picked off by the gulls. I just hope some of them get in the water. I'm with you, bro. You made it. It's all good.
It's it sucks to see because it felt like Eternal Fire, for narrative reasons, they come in to the grand finals of the Blast Bounty, predictably lose to Spirit, even though they took them down on Anubis.
Yeah.
They make it to the playoffs of Katowice. They lose to a Mongols team that, at the time, I was rating the Mongols decently, so I wasn't super upset with Eternal Fire there. But then to see them lose to Falcons, who again, like we're calling these legit teams, but they're not elite teams. No. And the thing is that Eternal Fire was on the cusp of being elite. That's what annoys me the most about this. That you've now made 3 consecutive, I would consider, deep runs at the only 3 events that have mattered this year thus far, and to pretty much fall at the first hurdle in 2 of them at that moment shows that it is the moment that's getting to you more than the teams. Because you lose to one of the Mongols and Falcons, I'll give you a pass. You lose to both of them, there's something going wrong here. So that's something that they clearly have to address. The stats say that that Xantares is doing well in these moments. I haven't felt his impact as strongly in these kinds of games. I think individual maps for him, I remember him really tapering off versus the Falcons, for example, like map 3 nuke, he was just nowhere to be found whatsoever. So it's a little bit of everybody. I can't really whereas the Mongols answer for me was so simple that it's just like, Senzu's got to get his act together. For me, I think it's something a little bit deeper. I guess if I have to speculate, or like not speculate, but things I've kind of noted while watching these games, I don't think they're running plays as fluidly as they did in group stages. Like, this was kind of a heroic problem when they were on their come up, but then they had their chokes in big arenas, is that it didn't feel like the defense was as active. Like Anubis versus the Mongols, I feel like they were just kind of turtled in bomb sites more. But like, one thing that I noticed in group stages, even watching them play the Blast Bounty against Spirit in a studio environment, is that they kept running CT plays. They were like, going, go. They were like pushing canals, pushing B, pushing A, like trying to do something in mid. Like Xantares would walk through mid, but like when they played the Mongols in Katowice on Anubis on their CT side, it just felt super static. So that's something that I would keep my eye on for the strategical side of this. And I think that's fixable, but like, players are just playing worse too beyond that. Like, even in moments that are regardless of like what the strat is called. It's just they're not like Jota looks like he could be a top 20 player this year, which I knew he was okay. I didn't think he was this good until I watched him in studios. So yeah, get it together, because to see Xantara's again kind of lower on that top 20 than you think, it feels like it rewrites history in the wrong way.
By the way, also, the other thing, the reason why both Mongols and Eternal Fire are the ones to highlight is, it's not like they're just not good enough and can they get to a semi-final? No, if these guys ever get over this hurdle, they are going to like be in the finals or like win an event or fuck around and actually beat the best team in the world. So all we need is that little switch to flip and everything in CS will be better.
All of the moments for Eternal Fire that have been good have been, think of ESO Pro League, where they came into the grand finals against Navi. They pushed them, by the way, in a light studio environment.
True.
CCT Global Finals last year online, where they took down Liquid for a huge-ass prize purse. Like, it's all these low-pressure environments.
Bet Boom.
But then Bet Boom, they did well also. Taking down, was it Mouse there?
The final, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they got to the grand final.
They can do it,
yeah,
man.
all of these like smaller studio environments, they're really good at. Like, they actually, I would almost say this: they're elite. They actually are elite in studios. They're an elite team in studios, but once they're in front of a stage, in front of an audience, a significant audience at that, it's a completely different team.